I'll call the meeting to order. And the first item of business is, the pledge. I was testing you. Will you join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is identifying the chair and the vice chair, 2017. Gentlemen?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Dan Chown as incoming chair for the Board of Commissioners.
I'll second the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You can vote. It's not a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Second business is the vice chair.
I'll make
Go ahead.
a motion to appoint Commissioner Brad Winters as vice chair for the calendar year 2017.
I'll second the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So be it. It's yours, sir.
Okay. Is Darwin gonna be here?
Just welcome in.
There he is.
Yep, there he is.
Yes, Saki.
Well, this'll go on long enough, so we'll start it a minute or so early, Darwin. I think today is a really special day in that we're going to have an opportunity to thank someone that's put in a tremendous amount of public service to the county of Lake, many, many years. A lot of thankless nights and different things that came up along those 32 years. But Darwin, if you would.
Yes, so, I don't know if you want me up there, just speak from here.
Wherever you're coming from.
John Flynn has been on our planning commission since 1984, from the best I can gather, and you know, the planning commission itself is made up of 7 volunteers who serve from various locations throughout the county, and you know, land use planning with Senate Bill 100, you know, back in the 70s roughly, you know, created land use planning and comprehensive planning for counties and gave them the opportunity to implement statewide planning goals that were established, and John was really at the beginning of all that, you know, and very instrumental in helping see that the protection of you know, property rights, but also of our natural resources was intact throughout these many years, which has been on the board. You know, planning commissioners by statute aren't allowed to be paid, and so they, you know, they serve, you know, usually 4-year terms, you know, and can serve for as many as they desire. There's no limitation on terms, but certainly, you know, when people get on these boards, they usually do it for, you know, for the benefit of the people whom they, you know, their neighbors, their friends, and live in the community. And so, you know, when John took over, I believe he said it was for your aunt, right? Yes. And who had probably been one of the original members when we first had our planning commission established. But to give 32 years to a particular board is tremendous, and you know, is something that, you know, you will probably never see again. Is my belief on that. I mean, we've got a lot of young board members now who've replaced, you know, vacant seats, but you know, that dedication to public service and to seeing the land use is moving forward in the right direction is something that's absolutely commendable, and something that certainly needs to be addressed and recognized. And I appreciate John always, you know, was, you know, attending meetings, and often, you know, we had some pretty hot topics that you know, a lot of times you have to balance your personal beliefs between just the criteria, and sometimes that can put you in a tight spot, because, you know, it seems sometimes to forget about common sense and land use. I mean, but certainly, you know, I appreciate the work of all our planning commissioners, but we're gonna greatly miss John's experience, the history that he has, the knowledge that he has about just the county and how land use is supposed to work. I thank you very much, John, for all your hard work. And I know the commissioners can say more, and we've got something for
Well,
you.
First and foremost, I might have started this a little early. Was there anyone else, John, that you knew of that was gonna be?
Oh, I didn't know anybody, no.
Well, I think.
Our chair was gonna come, Meredith Smith. but,
Okay.
He
The weather,
phoned, and
did
the
he?
weather was terrible, and
Yeah,
he
he-
sent his best regards, and he would catch it.
I've got a fellow board member.
Ginger is here, yes.
You're not feeling all alone.
No, I'm not alone.
Before Commissioner Winters speaks, I was just gonna note, because you really made a good point, 32 years. I spent 32 years paid with the Forest Service, and that's a long career. And to do this as a volunteer on behalf of the citizens of Lake County, to make it a better place to live through this, is more than commendable, and we can't begin to thank you enough, so.
You're welcome.
John, they're just, 32 years is, like everybody says, just unbelievably commendable. You was on the planning commission when I got my conditional use about 30 years ago. Thank you for that. The thing about a planning commission member that has the longevity that you have, you've helped mold our communities with controlled growth out there, whether it's conditional use, whatever there is, and you've done that with common sense along with following the laws. And you preserve our heritage too, whether it's the cattle industry or it's the forest industry or whatever it is, when you sit as a planning commission. And a lot of people don't realize, what you realize is that you're a very important decision-making group there. And now those things can be appealed to the Board of Commissioners. And in my time, I have a few years in here, we've only had about 3 or 4 appealed to us in 16 years. That's commendable to a planning commission. And for you to put in 32 years, and you can look around and you can see some of these places where the people's dreams have been built because the planning commissions allowed them to have their 10 acres, and it hasn't taken it away from the farming. And then there's other places where you've been able to keep the family farms together and those things. It's all very commendable, and a good, strong planning commission and the experience that you have and what you're walking away from, we appreciate that very much, John. And thank you very much, because you've helped mold our community.
You bet, Brad.
I just say you've been one of the leaders of the commission, helping them, guiding them, and that's quite commendable, being a leader.
Thank you.
I don't know how many different, years you served as chair, but I'm sure there was
Oh, I can't
a
remember.
few different times, and, he's been our vice chair, I think, almost the whole time I've been here. So, this next meeting, we'll have to replace that position as well, but certainly, thank you, John. And now,
And I would much rather than it just be one commissioner. I'd like all 3 of us to be here, as well as you, Darrell, director.
Get on up there.
And I'd like to also say, there's been a few with John, not to take away from him, this moment, but we're gonna, kind of the first of probably a few that ought to be recognized that may have been, have served on our commission for a long period, so like Patch, and we're gonna try to have something to it, so.
So what the plaque says, John, Lake County Board of Commissioners recognizes the 32 years of dedicated volunteer service of John Flynn on the Planning Commission from 1984 to 2016. Thank you for your valued leadership.
Thank you. Ken, Brad, Jeff, thank you guys.
Can we do like a weird, awkward photo op?
That's only if you have the appropriate
You
players.
want behind the deal, or?
Yeah, right around here.
Right around here now.
I'm very, very comfortable.
Make sure I get
Stage
this the right
photo.
direction.
Kind of
Up
close together.
there, all right. Keep your hands.
3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Be sure to stay in touch with the members.
Oh, yeah, they know where I'm at. I don't leave
Not a
them.
problem.
You bring a lot of this.
Ginger will be
And
calling
safe
you.
drive around the county truck.
Yeah. Love driving that truck.
You'll be hearing from me, I'm sure.
Yeah, phone call away.
Okay,
before we change it to 32 years?
You got a couple more to go. You
32, yeah, I don't know if
got
I'm at
31, you
32.
got 31 left to go, don't you?
You're getting closer every day.
Slow down, slow
Well,
down.
we can track the numbers.
Can I mention one thing just as a
Yeah.
report? We will have a planning commission meeting on the 17th, there'll be a training. So public is more than welcome to attend. John Jennings and Scott Edelman from GLCD will be there, hopefully in person, if not, by video. But they will be doing a training on land use and, public's, again, welcome to attend and get some kind of heads up on how land use is supposed to work.
And again,
6 o'clock, the 17th of this month, so here in this room.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So Denise, did I understand that one of our items got deleted?
That is correct. Tom at the airport is on
Oh.
today, so
Oh, for
our
that.
airport item has been.
Okay. Our next item up then is road department phone system upgrade recommendations.
So, during the process, when we were looking at upgrading their computer system, we're actually moving them to a server and upgrading their, internet and all that good stuff as well. Worked with Christy and Kevin on potentially upgrading their phones. They made a request to see what that cost would be. We went back out to Basin to see, have an updated bid to send in, because we had kind of looked at doing this prior to this budget year. This purchase is not, wasn't included in our budget for this year, so I just need to make sure that we brought it forward. But their phone system out there is very antiquated, and it's time to get them up to speed. My IT staff is in town this week. They will be here tomorrow and Thursday, actually installing the computer system at the road department. The guys have gone out and run all the wiring, so you'll note in this quote that no wiring was included in the $47.31 cost. But Kevin and crew have decided that they would like to move forward with that. That will also include an intercom system to the shop, so pretty much brings them up to speed.
to the 21st century.
Yeah, yeah. Anything you want to add?
Only that upgrade allows also for our garage staff to not have to be piled in one room. I think that bid had 5 units, and we're gonna separate the bigger office that I work in and shop foreman Lee, I don't have his own workstation to should clean things up a bit.
In your existing office.
Yep.
Just voice over IP,
What's that?
your phone system, is that?
It is not a VoIP system.
Oh, a what system?
Voice
Voice.
over IP.
Yeah.
So,
It's a little bit different than what we have at the courthouse, just because it runs on, a VoIP system runs on fiber, it's a bit different. But it's on for tomorrow.
yeah, and but in this system, it will have everything that
Correct,
is needed.
that is
Okay.
correct.
So we'll be taking action tomorrow.
So we don't have yet fiber to the road department.
Mhm.
Well, welcome to the 20th century, not the 21st.
It's
We'll
still,
get there.
it's still
Fairgrounds
an
and road
improvement.
department,
It's still quite an improvement.
Yeah.
yeah.
This
The new internet, have you noticed a big difference?
There's a
We're
lot,
not hooked up yet.
Not yet. Oh, yeah, till the new system comes in.
there's a lot of times that her ability to input or extract information from Iris waits on technology, so hopefully this will improve
They're
things.
currently on a internet that is a 1.5 up and a 0.5 down. Their new internet, once that new system's in on Thursday, will be 20 up, 20 down. So they should be much faster. They should
Wow.
have near
That'd be
the,
good.
Trying to make your head swirl.
Yeah,
Oh, to
1.5 is
print, I have to
adequate.
sit there and, it's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
I can go to the
Please.
bathroom and come back still waiting for it to print. So, okay.
Well, good.
There's still parts of the county that's on 1.5 or less that Ginger is working on to upgrade also.
Well,
So, our next 2 items, before we go to that, Kevin, because I don't know with you and Christie your time schedule, I'd like to go to department updates. I think you have a little update for the board.
Yeah, So shortly after I got this job, it was brought to my attention that we needed to investigate Bear Flat Road for name recognition and miscommunication problems and so forth. And 2 meetings ago, I believe, we talked about it as well as installing mileposts to help further identify the locations on that road for 2 purposes, for our own planning internally, but also for emergency services. So in the process, we thought it appropriate to sit down with, we sat down with Tom Rourke and Keith Little, and also Sam from up there, and discussed their history of these problems with the call-outs and emergency services. And it came across to me as that most of their concerns were from people calling in accidents or issues that were out of the area that had no knowledge of that area, and so they would get miscommunication, Silver Lake Highway. Well, in further discussion, Silver Lake Highway also refers to Oregon 31, and so that further muddied the water. And what we came up with was, when you come from the west coming east into Lake County, it's a very small sign that says welcome to Lake County, and we honor the veterans and so forth. Believe what we talked about, what we're gonna do is we're gonna increase the size of that sign for one thing, to identify this is the county line. We're also gonna put a Bear Flat Road sign under it so that we can identify in 2 phases, hopefully what fixes this problem, and put mileposts every 1 and every half mile throughout that road. So people can see that Lake County, this is Bear Flat Road, and mileposts. And in discussion with Mr. Little and Mr. Rourke, they, having more experience with that area than myself, liked that idea, thought that that might help, and I said that we would institute that and then entertain that for 6 months or a year and just see if that didn't clear up some of the problems before we go into the second phase, which would be to change the name. My concern with changing the name to Silver Lake Road or Silver Lake Highway is now we even further make it more confusing, because there's 3 stretches of road now, that Klamath, ours, and Oregon 31 that have the same name. So by renaming, or I guess further advertising our own Lake County road name, hopefully we can clear some of that problem up.
Okay, so on the Bear Flat Road, where you hit Lake County, you put up Lake County sign and Bear Flat Road. What about the dispatch system that looks at that whole road as Silver Lake Highway? Part of the problem, at least what I was told, is that Klamath County is gonna be Silver Lake Highway, and then the other part's gonna be Bear Flat, and then emergency services and dispatch is where the issue is. Are they gonna address that? Is Keith Little then gonna address that with dispatchers?
Yep, as we put up the milepost markers and we put up the signs, we're gonna have another meeting discussion on identifying those mileposts for Lake County, because it'll take off from 36. We will just increase the mileposts. We won't start at 1, we will go with their mileposts. So it's 35 and a couple feet there by the county line, and we will put up 35 and a half, 36, 36 and a half, and so forth on to 31.
Well, I think it's a great idea, because then the residents on there don't have to change all their counts and everything, as long as the dispatch side of it.
That's what, and in our discussion with, identifying this, put mileposts up, and work with the MS, those 2 felt that this would,
They're the ones that brought it forward, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
before we just went full blown into renaming things, we were gonna try this first.
Excellent.
We're gonna milepost is the first step. Let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Anything else for department?
Not this time, it's snowing, be careful.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully.
Love it.
Looks like for about 4 or 5 days, and then rain on Sunday or something.
Be watching the creeks and bridges if it start getting rain and snow.
Okay, our next item, Plymouth Community College out of district 2016-17 contract, Denise.
KCC has forwarded the contract for the current year. We're a little bit late in getting it, but we're still okay. I see no changes from the previous contract, other than they are sending me a new signature page because they've got some dates wrong and our board chair is incorrect, so they will be sending me one of those prior to signing.
Okay. And we'll be taking action on this tomorrow, so.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, next item, 2017 Board of Commissioner Liaison Consideration Discussion.
We've held our current liaisons pretty consistent over the years. We did have a change about taking on public health a year or so ago, and we linked some airport to you, Commissioner, but seriously, public health on too. But
Uh-oh. Okay.
if there's, and I'll still offer the hot test to anyone that wish to take it on. Otherwise, I would just,
I think you already got appointed at the last one.
that was the last one, we're talking about this forthcoming.
No, we probably appointed last meeting already.
I wasn't here the last one.
I know.
It wasn't on the agenda, so it's in my. I have a strong interest in community corrections and sheriffs. Any thoughts on maybe sharing some of that?
On the community corrections and the
Sheriff?
and the sheriff. I haven't put much thought into it.
Straighten out your road department.
There you go.
I got it.
Got some of those curves corrected?
No, got some sand on the road.
There you go.
Well, we're gonna be talking about it tomorrow.
Let me put some thoughts into it. And Commissioner, I have some interest in the fair board, so maybe we'll work some things out there.
I was gonna bring that up.
So, yeah, let me talk with
Sleep
them.
on it.
Talk with them.
Anything else of interest to anybody?
No.
Yeah, the sheriff aspect is just part of my military. I wasn't a military police officer, but they call it Vietnam Police in Action at the time.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned, community corrections and,
Well, and sheriff jail. Kind of related things.
yeah, well, that would probably, the related things would be district attorney's office, all the community corrections and the sheriff, they all flow together.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the DA. Where's the DA on there?
and then the,
Just will community service.
I see it.
yeah,
But give some thought to it.
okay.
And Fair Board, I missed more meetings this year because being out of town, that they need a dependable person at this time.
Okay.
And I know you have strong feelings on that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
We can,
Well, if I just take over fair board and give everything else to you and Dan, I'll be good.
And then everything I take that he doesn't get, then I'll piece it out back to him also.
So back to Dan also,
sounds good.
Excellent. Motion carried.
Yeah. Well, we'll take that up tomorrow.
yeah. Okay.
Okey-doke. So, department updates, we've heard from the road department. Denise, did you have anything else for department updates?
It was pretty quiet in fleet and transit. IT, like I said, my gentleman will be here tomorrow. We're working through the transition with the district attorney's office. There's gonna be a little bit of IT changes there, as well as office. Sounds like we're gonna move some offices around and whatnot eventually, so we're gonna be working through that process. Pretty quiet.
you know, for all departments, and of course, we have a small audience today, but with the budget notifications starting to come out, we haven't made any firm decisions, and we'll be having a meeting on that, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for departments this year, and hopefully everybody will be really sharpening their pencil as they start to work on their budgets.
Liaison.
Yep, liaison updates.
Well, I guess I can start a little bit on liaison updates. As everybody's aware, we all three work on railroad issues. Been looking at our contract with our people that we're leased with Lake Railway now. Following up on that quite a bit, our lease talked about our obligation to take care of the bridges on the rail lines, so I'm going through it, the fine tooth comb. I might even ask for legal counsel to talk a little bit about it tomorrow. With that, Dave, he's not here right now, but he's through Regional Solutions. I said on Executive Board of Regional Solutions, there's a grant opportunity right now that I had Dave put in the preliminary application to try to leverage some dollars for our bridges on the railroad. So that preliminary application went in. We'll see where it goes from there. Then about March, April is whenever the full application has to be done. So working on that with Dave and making sure we're trying to find every avenue we can for our obligation on the rail line. So continuing on that, I always work on transportation issues. I haven't confirmed to put in my application yet or not. I've been approached to consider maybe being on the freight advisory board, statewide freight advisory board. The ODOT region manager and area manager and district manager has requested, asked if I would consider that. I'm trying to find out the time commitment and the travel commitment on that. Their meetings usually are on Wednesdays. I don't miss board meetings here very often, so I have to sort of weigh that out if they're monthly or quarterly meetings. So that's a great opportunity for Lake County if I was to get appointed, if I do put my name in the application. So considering that right now, I do have an executive act meeting, area committee on transportation meeting next Friday over in Bly. Continue to work on that. And then like everybody else, just trying to stay up with the snow at my own house right now.
Shoveling snow is good exercise and fresh air.
Yeah.
Can you give us an update on the land management member withdrawal?
Oh, yeah. The draft EIS now has went out to public. It went out to the cooperating agencies here about a month ago, but wasn't able to really say much about it because of you signed the MOU through as a cooperating agency. They have several public meetings. They're going to have a public meeting in Lakeview. I can't remember. I can look the date up.
That's good.
It's in the evening to be able to comment on the EIS.
Bless you.
That'd be at the interagency office.
Yeah, at the interagency office. I should have wrote it down. 5 to 7 on February 22nd at the BLM office. That's a chance for the public to go in and do any comments on the EIS.
How many pages was that?
Oh gosh, 600 and either 602 or 608 or something like that. I can't remember.
We call you requesting a extension of time for comments?
Yes, we requested an extension of time, working with Judge Grasty out of Harney County on it. We did get, I think it was 1 week extension. I did not put any written comments in. I stayed with my verbal comments to them that there needs to be mitigation allowed within whatever decisions that they make. I still support Lake County support of on their alternatives. No change, to leave it the way it is. that's the support, or that's the direction on their alternatives that I've supported, setting on as cooperating agency. With the change in leadership, administration at national level, I'm not sure how far this is gonna go, if it'll be no change, or if there'll be anything before. You can speak to that. Yeah.
I'll weigh in there just a little bit. I did get a chance. I responded back to John Aldrich as well on his, somewhat, I just told him it'd be good if he could come in sometime this week and we can get together. He had asked me to do a little follow-up when I was back in DC in early December. I got the chance to talk to Ron Dutton, who, with the BLM, and Ron's over at NIFC over in Boise, but he's kind of filling in as the acting assistant director of the BLM with Steve Ellis's recent retirement. And Ron's been working on this away from the group as far as part of the decision-making process. And I guess I would just summarize what he had to say to me. We talked quite a bit after our WIFLIC meeting, our Wyoming Fire Leadership Council meeting back there. And he expressed a strong belief that this is probably not going to go where we were fearful it might go, that it's probably going to be modified quite a bit, if anything. And I think that the press release last week with the draft EIS kind of spoke to that. My understanding, and I haven't looked at it, but that when they released that draft, they did not list the preferred alternative. And there's a fairly strong belief it'll probably be 3 months out at least, as they look at this, that the new administration and those in the Interior Department may let this just go away. And of course, that's what we're all hopeful for. You know, we're very cognizant of the impacts if we were to do a significant land withdrawal.
Just for the audience on the camera and anybody, after the BLM management did the sage-grouse EIS to modify local management, then out came Secretary of Interior's proposal to withdraw minerals, locatable minerals, not leasable, not common aggregate, but locatable. That's gold, silver, whatever, you know, the typical mining type. But it also includes sunstone, which affects us as a locatable mineral. And it's intended to protect the sage-grouse primary habitat areas, the sage-grouse focus areas, but they rely also on the federal government, Fish and Wildlife Service, and BLM management relies heavily on the state grouse mapping, which has some flaws in it. Both Commissioner Winters is working one avenue to get that corrected, and working another avenue with the department itself. But that mapping has some gross flaws in it that needs, because it needed to be corrected, because that's what the federal agencies utilize. But this mineral is intended, this mineral withdrawal proposal is intended to protect primary sage-grouse habitat, of its Lake County and Beatty Butte area has a substantial amount. But I agree with Commissioner Sound that if we delay it until the new administration comes on, gets settled in, there will be some good modification or other alteration of that proposal. There's other ways to protect sage-grouse habitat than just mineral. I think the mineral withdrawal has a big influence, my personal belief, in the Obama administration and some of the environmental groups, and we need a more balanced approach than just a blanket withdrawal.
Yeah, it's 1.9 million acres in Oregon. I mean, that's huge. Yeah, and
across the next west.
Yeah, and it goes into even low density areas by the maps that you talk about. One thing we were able to is they didn't even follow the maps exactly on this, because they went to the lat long, they went to the corners and all that, and so they're supposed to make that more accurate according to the maps, but the maps themselves are the problem. They're
We got two problems. Some mapping wrong, plus just doing a blanket legal description. Wrong. instead of ground clipping.
I think that we have been heard, and I think the real positive is the change in administration, that it will be looked at a little bit different than to just lock lands up.
Well, as you say, Commissioner, being heard, and granted, we only have 3 representatives back there that represent our area, but I did get the chance while I was there, and intentionally so, because I'll give another little update here in a minute once my turn, but on some other items, but they did hear it loud and clear in both Senator White and Senator Merkley, as well as Congressman Walden's office, of our concern on this. And to that end, for, the draft wasn't out at that time, but where we knew it was potentially headed, I reemphasized also the need, as you alluded to earlier, the mitigation, that we have no way to mitigate it, even if it's something that would be very doable. So I think we're on the right track.
I'm good.
I'll just go ahead and share, I mean, there was a whole bunch of things that I was able to meet on while I was back there. One thing I was gonna mention up front, just so we all make sure we have it on our calendar, I think everybody was good with it, is next Monday at 10:30, we're on with the new force supervisor, Harry Endler, and he's gonna be coming here.
Correct.
Okay, good.
And he, as we learned during AOC, will have to meet with you individually.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, the last item I was just gonna mention is the biomass off federal lands proposal that we've been working on. Our pilot area is well received. The issues have been around how do we do it without opening up the RFS, the renewable fuel standards, which nationally is a huge deal. I didn't realize how big a deal it was till we got right in the smack dab in the middle of this. The positive side, I thought that from our past, Commissioner Kessler and I, with our past federal careers, we've been around pilot projects before, and typically they're to demonstrate the ability to do something without a lot of impacts thrown upon them, or requirements thrown upon them if you have good monitoring for what your pilot's going to be to test out a belief on a smaller land base than national. So with that said, the chief and I had a real good visit after our WIFLIT meeting that I alluded to earlier, the Wildland Fire Leadership Group. And so we met the next day, and he has set up appointments with Senator Wyden's office, as well as Senator Wyden's had the lead on the pilot proposal. But to have a mechanism so that we could actually get this pilot put in place and not open up the renewable fuel standard to everybody, but allow for the federal lands within the pilot, which, taking all of Lake and Klamath County, part of Deschutes, part of Harney, and even in Crook County, and it goes down into Modoc County. Modoc County hasn't quite yet got there on wanting to consider that, but with that said, the chief believed there was a way to do it, so I am deferring to him to have those discussions with the decision makers that will be proposing. We have the legislation put together, just having the trigger for allowing it to happen on this pilot. And this pilot has built into it some very strong monitoring standards, and the pilot itself can be stopped at any time if we find out that what we say would happen, which is the removal of slash, one of the key contributors to our wildland fire problem, one of our key contributors to our air problem, has no other use than just there, except for the soil that it creates over time, but very seldom do these big slash areas make it to that stage where they degrade back into actual soil. They usually get burned up either through prescribed fire, machine piling, hand piling, or wildfire. So we think we've got a good case, and hopefully we'll get there.
Good for background to the audience on camera. This all relates to the 2007 Energy Security Security Act passed by Congress that exempts biofuels off of federal lands from being considered for tax incentives or whatever. And that was during the Democratic administration of control of the Senate and so forth. Ron Whiting have attempted to change that law, but without luck. But as Commissioner Sound says, trying to look at just doing a pilot instead of changing the full act this time. But with a new administration, a new Congress, Senate, might have a little more possibility, feasibility of being granted to do pilot projects. And that has an impact on Red Rock financial aspect, whether we can get tax incentives or not. Yep, I'm just working on many little things, but the one big passion, and I'll let Ginger Costo give us an update where we are with our broadband internet project, because it's a project initiated by SCOED, and it's a 2-county, Modoc and Lake County, specifically Surprise Valley and Warner Valley. Ginger, I'll put you on the spot.
That's okay. Where we are today is we're in the process of gathering information so that we can be more competitive in both counties to hopefully apply for some USDA funding to get some infrastructure on the ground in both valleys that will improve the quality of the internet service, and hopefully, it looks like, coming along behind that, also cell service. Now, we don't have any promises about timelines or anything like that, but if we continue on the path that we are right now, it's very feasible that by the end of 17, early 18, we may have some infrastructure on the ground out in both of those valleys that will allow ISPs like TNet, and then there's one in Surprise Valley called SV or Surprise Valley Net, or even FireServe. Any internet ISP could come in and use the facilities to strengthen the services that are not present out there, or strengthen the services that are present and add to what they're not able to. Some households in both of those valleys are not able to even receive what is currently available to, like the Plush area, Adel, and then Cedarville, Fort Bidwell, etc. So we've been working with the tribe. They are an integral part of all of this in Fort Bidwell, and also with the county, with county government, their IT person, most specifically Chester Robinson, who's their administrator, and the chair of their supervisors, their board of supervisors, Kathy Rhodes, on that level. And then a lot of just being on the ground and interacting with local business folks that are really desperately needing better service. And one of the discoveries through our conversations, and now we're in a survey process, is how many home-based businesses outside of livestock and agriculture, grass growing or whatever, how many home-based businesses there are. It's pretty stunning. And that was a little bit of a surprise, not too much, but a little bit of a surprise. And so we'll have a lot more information that we wouldn't be able to gather or collect otherwise once we get through with this survey, which we're just about through with the collection part, and then it'll be time to put the data together. There is a USDA grant that we believe called the Community Connect Grant. There's a lot of rumor in DC, and with all the confusion of the change in administration, that usually it comes out in March or April. And one of the reasons we received the grant when we did in early August, late July, was to prepare for writing and being, having the information together for that grant. And we found out, we got a heads up from one of the regional USDA folks here about a month ago that it's coming out like now. So we're a little bit under the gun to get our information together. It will improve a lot of things. One of the things that's happening is that we're working with LS Networks, which is a fiber deployment company, and local ESD to hopefully get an E-rate fiber out to Adel and Plush so that the schools there will be really well connected. Right now they're served with a T1 copper line from CenturyLink, which hasn't necessarily been the best option for them. And some of the locals have been able to work off of that too, but it has its restrictions, and it's very overly used right now, so that the speed goes down to practically nothing when people are at home using their devices. You know, every home has, you know, 3 or 4 devices that they're operating at any one time, and at the time the T1 lines were put in, maybe they had 1. So it's really taxed its ability to, or its capacity. So we're moving along. We became, we learned about LS Networks and their desire to do more in this area, and also a company called ComNet that's also owned by another company out of Atlanta. We learned about them through Ken's involvement in this over the years, and also a conference in Hood River that we went to in October. And some things happened very quickly once we made connections with them, and we got them here, very reliable on-the-ground folks, and have moved us way forward from where we were and where we thought we were going to be very quickly, very experienced in working with these USDA grants and the Community Connect
Work
program.
specifically with rural America, very
Yeah,
rural.
very rural, and that's their passion, that's their thing. They're basically the ones that have put the Navajo Nation online, and a lot of the very remote areas in Nevada and Utah, Arizona. I mean, they're really the ones that have they sort of put us into hyper speed on the whole thing, which was it's been very helpful. We also have engaged in some conversations with Surprise Valley Electric about them assisting in some way in the deployment of the fiber. And while that is not anywhere near any kind of an agreement or possibility at this point, they're extremely open to that. There are several electric cooperatives in our region that have engaged in that to build the capacity for their customers, and so that they're open to that. And there's a lot of good models for them to look at from Douglas County, Plumas County, anyway. So that's been really interesting, yes.
So Ginger, have you ever spoken with the folks in Wasco and Sherman County about
Absolutely.
their programs?
Yes.
Because I know at our last AOC conference, I've talked to them every year, just checking in with them, and it
Right.
sounded like they thought that we were a great candidate for what, but you're also, the way you've described all this, you're way down the tracks, literally, with a different approach, but I didn't know what kind of conversations you might have had with them.
We have engaged in those conversations. Mike Smith, is it Mike Smith? Yeah.
He's out of office now.
Yeah,
but He's
he
still
is.
gonna be involved.
Oh, very involved, and in fact has been a great consultant for us, and has, you know, really taken a look at what we're looking at, and has offered up some alternatives and some different strategies. And while we're not, you know, we don't know exactly what all the strategies are that are gonna come out of all this, because we haven't completed our informational work, and also ComNet they still have some engineering work to do to look at what's possible on the ground. But no, we've been fairly well connected with them
Well,
about
Steve
their
Schaefer
process.
Judge Schaefer up there
Mhm.
is another great source, because he's still in office.
Exactly. In fact, they've very, very graciously allowed us to take their survey and sort of amend it to our uses. So they've been very cooperative. It's been really helpful.
And their scenario is slightly different than ours, but we can always glean ideas that can be adjusted.
Right. Theirs
Now-
kind of got spun off of emergency services, if I remember
Mhm. Yep.
correctly, yeah.
Their source.
They have a
Right.
multi-county network. that has
Exactly.
a backup system and everything else, yeah.
Right,
Yeah, they first went out on 911 type emergency. They had none. Anybody who needed 911 would call the house of the county sheriff.
right,
Uh, They,
great system.
they basically built their structure up to address 911, which meant they had antennas and towers and other things. And then for internet, they had the infrastructure there that just slapped on the equipment. But they also worked with some of the lead carriers of internet. But what needs to be clear to the audience is that there's no assurity. What we're doing right now is gathering information that would go into a larger application, a competitive application. And that's why we're trying to get the information out. It's social, demographics, economics, and what is the best fit of infrastructure. So that we have that data, quality data, to put in for a competitive grant. But there's no assurance. But on the cell phone service, ever since I've been, every 3 or so years, I would contact Verizon. And they said not enough people for the infrastructure. If we can get the infrastructure up, and these folks with ComNet has the inside ear of some of those cell phone companies, so we may be able to dovetail cell phone on top of the internet infrastructure. But again, it's competitive, but a lot more promising now than my previous communications with
Yeah.
Verizon.
When we originally, the purpose of the grant was to identify strategies and get some data that wasn't really that available to us. And that was, we zoomed past that very quickly when we were able to become involved with some of these other folks. So that's been really good. We probably bypassed a lot of so we compressed the time frame and the informational status of everything very quickly, so it's been
And
good.
right now, as mentioned, CenturyLink to Warner Valley is copper, is old copper too. And every connection degrades over time. And if we can get fiber out to Adel, you can get phone service over to fiber and then be able to beam it along with the internet.
Well, I think we'll be looking forward to another update here in a few months.
Yes, you will.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and join our work session of January 3rd at